Someone commented on my last video telling me that Blizzard's biggest mistake was making World of Warcraft quest focused instead of grind focused. I read that and my first reaction was something like, what the hell is this dude on? Calling questing the worst mistake in the history of World of Warcraft feels like way too much. But then I remembered my own point I made from the video he commented on. And the point was that most quests are just grinding with extra steps. Go kill 10 boars, but now there's some boring text saying why the boars deserve it. For the majority of the game, quests exist only to funnel you through a controlled grind, with small XP bursts here and there and an occasional green quality reward. There are some genuinely great quests though, mostly early alliance zones like Elwyn, Westfall, Redridge and Duskwood. These zones have a decent amount of them, but after that the magic is kind of gone, and we all know it. The lore is often non-existent or extremely shallow, and they never innovate in any way. And the thing is, even just from a efficiency-based point of view, sometimes just grinding is actually faster. Depending on your class and your level, you can ignore quests entirely and still keep up and even be faster. And even when questing is the optimal choice, the gap isn't huge. So yeah, both ways have pros and cons. Okay, questing in Classic isn't exactly peak game design, but why would quests be a bad thing? You can literally ignore them if you don't like them. Plenty of players did and still do. Well, to be honest, I still don't fully buy the argument that questing was the biggest mistake, or even a mistake to begin with. But I definitely get where this person is coming from. Because he mentioned how questing is watering the experience of 5-man dungeons. And he is not wrong. Vanilla itemization is very random. A random green from a lazy kill 12 bears quest can outclass dungeon blues or even some epics. That can sometimes kill the hype of a dungeon when everyone goes in already knowing that some of the gear that will drop has no meaning because they have greens from questing that are just more powerful. And dungeons should be part of the social heart of an MMO. Then you got stuff like shared loot. 2 friends doing the exact same quest. One is at 8 out of 8 wolf paws, the other is still sitting at 0 for some reason. That's not immersive, that's just annoying and takes away from the fun. Escort quests suck. We don't even need to discuss that. A ton of quests also send you across the world for absolutely no reason. You spend 25 minutes running through zones you already seen a million times before, hoping that the reward isn't trash. And then boom, they hand you a belt that makes what you were wearing before look like a legendary item in comparison. Nice. And worst of all, the sheer volume of shallow quests make Classic look like a game where the story barely exists or matters. And that is actually not true. Classic storytelling is just subtle, like Dark Souls. It's in environmental details, NPC placement, faction tensions, zone themes, in-game text from books or other sources, and also requires you to have some knowledge about the lore of Warcraft beforehand. But all of that gets buried under the mountain of, hey man, go collect 10 Murloc toes for me man, kind of chores. Anyway, that bigger point that Classic actually has pretty good world building, that's a topic for another video. But of course, questing isn't all bad. They make you explore the world, something you probably wouldn't do nearly as much if you were just grinding to max level. They force social interaction, which is huge for an MMO, and some quests basically create open world dungeons. Think about Stonewatch Keep in Redridge or Jinta Alor in the Hinterlands. Even if most are shallow, turning them in still gives that satisfying dopamine hit, which is again pretty cool. Plus, as I said, there are some genuinely cool quests with interesting stories hidden in there as well. So no, overall I do not think that questing was a mistake for World of Warcraft, but that comment made me step back and look at them differently, and I realized just how much of a missed opportunity they really were. Initially the developers aimed for around 600 quests, but like with so many things in WoW, they underestimated the work needed. They ended up rushing a lot of it, which explains why so many quests feel bland and repetitive. At the end of the day, the best move would have been something like delay the game a bit or throw more people at the project. Quests, basically all horde only zones, the first raid tier, class balance, server infrastructure, all of those would have benefited massively for extra time and resources back in the day. But while most of those things definitely needed more time and resources to improve, I think questing might not have required quite as much at all. I think what could have made questing in vanilla much better would have been a less is more kind of approach. The problem comes from Blizzard's realization that 600 quests will lead to a lot of mindless grinding because they are too few, and their panic for not wanting that to happen, which makes sense. Because you don't want to build this huge, beautiful world only for players to get bored because all they're doing is killing mobs in the same spots over and over. And yeah, I get it, I wouldn't want an MMO that only exists as grinding and a handful of rare class quests here and there either. But here's where it went wrong. They poured a ton of effort into ramping from 600 to nearly 3000 quests at launch, and the payoff wasn't that big. Most of these quests barely add any lore or spice up gameplay in any way, they just send you out to grind. And even if the quest text exists, shallow as it is, someone still had to write it. For 3000 quests, you still need a reason for each of those 3000 quests. Why are you killing 20 scorpions? Why this NPC is here? Why that loot matters? They all need implementation, testing, working NPCs, interactable objects. It's a ton of effort for very little impact. What I think they should have done instead is just accept that basic kill, gather and collect quests with very basic to no lore just aren't inherently interesting. Adding an NPC that says, hey, I want to make a soup, but I need fish, so go get me some fish from the Murlocs, doesn't suddenly make it exciting. Accept that and take all those thousands of minor quests and condense them into a simpler system, one that achieves the same goals with way less work and clutter and with extra benefits. Just put notice boards in the game, like the ones you see in The Witcher 3, where these minor quests are just pickable. No need to write quest text for every single boring kill X mobs or collect Y items task. Instead of having a bunch of NPCs hand you random errands out of nowhere, you just have a board in the towns where the quest hubs are. The town authorities or the townspeople post mercenary style requests. Makes more sense from a world building perspective too, honestly. Because it really never made sense that random villagers you've never met before just hand you errands out of nowhere for no reason. A much more logical setup is that the residents pay a fee or offer goods to town authorities and they organize these tasks for adventurers and they also handle the rewards. Boom, instead of 20 NPCs, each needing shallow text for shallow quests, you have one board explaining the work and one NPC responsible for giving out the rewards. Me collecting 20 Murloc toes without knowing that some random dude wants to eat them, which would actually be more interesting than what we get in the game, isn't going to make it less interesting or less fun, let's be real. And all of that, all of what I've been saying so far, it's assuming that anyone reads the quest text to begin with, which nobody does, and that is a fact. So what does this actually solve? First of all, it would have given them more time and effort. Time and effort that could have instead go into crafting quests like the Legend of Stalvan. Quests that actually keep you curious and engaged from start to finish. That's probably the biggest positive here. It also makes the rest of the quests feel way more impactful. Seeing an NPC with a quest marker above his head would actually be exciting. You'd know that this isn't just another kill 10 rats job, but something cool and interesting, and likely also worth your time because there's an above average reward at the end of it. You know that feeling when you see a chest and how exciting it is in Classic, even though most of them contain garbage, but some of them can contain really cool stuff. Quests could be like that. But even better because you always know that you are in for a treat. That kind of setup would make more players actually pay attention to the text and engage and get immersed in the world. Right now, most people do not know what the Legend of Stalvan even is. Not because they don't care about lore in Classic, but because almost every other quest is super boring, so most of us just stop bothering reading the text. And there's actually proof of this. So many YouTube videos about this questline perform really well, and in the comments, People rave about the story and the world building, and they are shocked how they played this game for so many years and they never knew about this quest. They learned about it from the videos and the posts. If quest indicators actually signaled quality and effort, it would naturally pull more people into the world. Combine that with having more of these kinds of quests, and you've got a much more immersive and engaging leveling experience. And what is more important than the leveling experience in Classic? Another bonus, the game's lore and world building would get the recognition it deserves, which probably would have drawn even more people in, which is a nice side effect. And over time, as more quests were added, even more time would have been saved, and more actually good quests, the ones we never got to see, could have existed. All of that said, I obviously know this isn't something that can happen anymore. I'm not gonna end this video like I end most of my other videos, saying something like, hey, this should be added to Classic Plus in my opinion. Because right now, it would probably do more harm than good. Familiarity is a huge reason people play this game. And while brand new players might appreciate this kind of system, millions of future Classic Plus players aren't new to World of Warcraft. They've been around for many years. The reality is that changes that would have been amazing 20 years ago aren't necessarily good ideas today. Still, maybe this is the kind of approach they should keep in mind while developing Classic Plus, you know? Maybe give it a try in some small controlled way. I expect a lot of people to maybe disagree with me. I really am looking forward to your counterpoints if you have any. Anyway, that's the video. Quick short one. If you've made it all the way through, thank you so much. It really matters a lot. Let me know what you think in the comments. I usually reply to almost all of them. And if you liked the video, consider liking and subscribing. Until next time, peace.